What's up, everybody? We are here live at Tiltz in Bushwick Sports Bar Arcade, and we have some special guests here. We have the creator of Rampage, Mr. Brian Colin. Cheers to you, man.
Thank you. All right. And now we are live. Is that correct?
We are live.
All right. Then I don't want to embarrass you by saying my name is Brian Colin.
Oh, Colin.
Really? So we'll just start all over.
We can take two. Yes. All right. You should bring it in, actually. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brian Colin, and we are live here at Tiltz Arcade with these guys. Names I don't even remember.
It's okay.
Oh, all right, we're good.
Because you know what? We love to do this right. Ready? It's Mr. Malabe, a.k.a. Matthew Malabe, and I want to welcome everybody here. I'm drinking a beer. I'm drinking a nice Miller Lite in a Coors Light glass, and I'm having a great time because I played a bunch of Rampage games and a bunch of arcade games in the back. So if you're not here this Saturday night, then you should be here because they have the games all on the TV. They have the UFC fight, and we got some special celebrities here too, and great food. And I'm just excited.
Great food.
Are you excited?
I'm excited.
You excited?
I'm excited.
And to my right, my co-host, Mr. Lex on Dex on Dex. Lex on Dex on Dex.
Here we go.
Lex on Dex on Dex.
Okay.
Lex on Dex on Dex.
On the floor.
Lex on Dex on Dex. Lex on Dex on Dex.
We talk about gorillas and lizards and all kinds of monsters in Rampage. About to get some lobster. I don't know. I almost had to freestyle. I almost had to freestyle.
That completely
Almost
sucked.
had to freestyle.
I think you need to take that hat off and put this hat on.
What hat is this?
It's the Tiltz official hat right there.
Oh,
that is
thank you.
Relic.
But y'all know what it is. It's your boy Lex from Lex on Dex, the most first indie label in Brooklyn, where we at right now.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, I always start the show with a freestyle that's half-ass.
It always is.
It's almost like a theme now. It's almost like a theme.
Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's not. We should do a best of later, but it's
Brian Colin, what did you think of my freestyle today?
I can't follow up on. I have nowhere to go. I mean, how do I follow that? No, that's wonderful. I'm Brian Colin. I don't do anything. I'm just here. So,
you guys so much more. So Brian Colin is a very modest man, saying he doesn't do anything. He did more things than we can do combined, actually.
Well, I'm impressed. He's done over 80 games since 1982.
Jesus.
And when we talk about at second rounds, you know what an OG is? That's what you are. You're an OG.
Cheers to Brian, the OG.
1982.
Thank you.
1980. He's been making games with old technology and new technology, and he's been through all the different routes. And we're obviously gonna dive into it. But you are an OG, like you are experienced. Right. You know this.
Yes, I've been called that before.
He's met Ice Cube before.
He's dabbled in the OG-ness. That's what it was.
Chilling with Snoop Dogg on weekends. At the arcade.
So I mean, welcome to Tiltz. This place is amazing.
It is. This is an incredible place. I was blown away, and the food is incredible.
Insane.
I mean, it's a major party.
Yeah.
But the food, man, blew me away.
Right.
I ran back to the kitchen yesterday and grabbed the chef, and I'm 62 years old.
Yeah.
I said that was the best burger I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Man. I mean,
I had the burger here before too, and every time I bite into the burger, I almost want to cry. I go, oh my God. It's almost like I want to give them a hug, like bring it in, man. Bring it in.
Let's all bring it in. Let's all just be family and enjoy this.
Yeah, man.
So Brian Colin, where are you coming from? Like where are you hailing from?
Is the first time in Brooklyn? I've been here, New York, New York City. Actually, this might be my first time officially in Brooklyn. In Brooklyn. Got friends in the Bronx and Queens and Manhattan, but I'm from Chicago area.
Chi-town.
Born and bred, and then Valley Midway back in the day. Chicago was kind of the epicenter for American arcade games, although when I stumbled into the industry, I had no idea what I was getting into. No idea. I had no idea where we were in the grand scheme of things. It was just, wow, this is a job and I'm getting paid to do this. And they were, I mean, the creative freedom in those early days was incredible. And I backed into it, completely backed into it. Had no clue.
Who would have known that years later, you'll be sitting with us having a beer, dabbling in this beautiful game.
At a barcade,
my man.
Well, thank you. At a bar arcade, right? Because back in the day, they didn't have drinks in arcades, did they? Like,
well, no, back in the day, no, absolutely.
You got the blast.
They did. No, back in the day when arcades were big, there were arcade games in bars,
right?
But they weren't barcades.
Yeah.
The arcades were mainly for kids and everything like that. But yeah, no, there was an arcade in every 7-Eleven, in every bar, and everywhere.
Yeah.
I stumbled into the industry in 1982 thinking I was answering a job to be a pinball backglass designer. And they said, no, I was an animated filmmaker. And they said, no, we want you to do animation for video games. We got our own development company.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Pac-Man, really? Have you seen my art style? And I called up a friend. It was like, and I was polite, but I kind of resisted. I said, I have a successful advertising agency, and you're going to have to pay me more than $300 a month.
At least.
$1 trillion.
And I'm thinking I'm pricing myself right out of the market. And George Gomez was kind of the heart of the development team at that time. Great mechanical designer back then, great pinball designer now. And he just kind of goes, yeah, I think we can do better than that. And they offered me the job, and I was actually bummed because I called a friend and I said, that's it. Childhood's over. I got a real job. There's no way I can turn this down. I was choking up. And then, God, was I wrong on every count. It was nothing like a real job. And childhood's been going on for 60 years, man. I mean,
Lots of child's play.
Oh, man, 36 years anyway.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was totally wrong on every count. It was a wonderful time to stumble into what this all became. They were letting us... I don't think management knew what they were doing back then, so they kind of gave us creative freedom that you don't get today. I mean, it's the strange things about being in a creative industry like film or video games is once the money starts going up, all the middlemen get their hands into it and tweak it and say, no, you can't do this, can't do that. Those early days, they let us try anything. And it was a wonderful time to learn. I started out as an animator. And animators were lucky. A programmer would work on one game for 9 months, and I'd get to work on everything. And you'd find out what worked and what didn't. So, and who's fun to work with and who's not. And for me, I'm basically lazy. So I figured out it was better to go in with a plan. So I kind of became a designer out of self-defense. You know, it's like, and they let us. And we were lucky. I've been blessed. I've been making games to make myself laugh for 36 years. And fortunately, enough other people laugh too that it's been making it all worthwhile. And I told you before, stop me when I start.
Keep rambling.
No. I want you to keep going. You know why? Because the reason why we do the podcast show as well is because you always want to love what you do, right?
Yes.
Throughout your whole entire year, your whole entire life. You don't want to have a 9-to-5 job and wake up and be bored and be like, I could do more. So we're looking at you and we're seeing so much inspiration. Why? Because you do what you love to do every day, and you have done for years. And that's what we love to do.
Every 9-to-5, anything you got to do. Start out doing what I do. But I've always tried to, whatever I'm given to do, make myself happy doing it. I don't care if it's, fry cook is one of the best jobs I ever had, but I've made myself happy. But with the video games, I was at a point where, while making myself happy because creative challenges, and you're telling me I can't do this, I'm going to figure out a way. I'm making myself happy. You can do that in almost any job if you figure it out. And and once you start making yourself happy, everything gets better. Every game that I've ever had that's been a hit, everybody on the team, because it's not a one-man show at all. A lot of designers, a lot of creative people go into everything. But when we're all laughing, when we're all having fun, the thing is going to make money. The fans, the players are going to love it.
Yeah.
So if you're having fun, that's going to come out. It's going to show.
Yeah.
It's going to show.
We always say, if you love it, they'll love it.
They'll love it.
Like, that always happens. That always works. I remember, we obviously cover pop culture a lot. We did an episode on Stan Lee, the comic book creator. Rest in peace. Cheers to Stan Lee, by the way.
I have a Stan Lee story too.
We're gonna hear that in a second.
Yeah,
We're gonna hear that in a second. And one of my favorite things to hear about when we were doing some research, we did an episode, a tribute to Stan Lee, is that he didn't start doing comics. Like, he wanted to become the next great novelist.
Right.
And it just happened, like, after 20 years of just being kind of like an intern at his job, he was like, filling inkwells and whatnot. And then one day he gets to do the writing for Captain America, which is already established by Timely Comics. And then it fell into that he became one of the best comic book writers of all time. And he loved what he was all about that. Right. And I feel the same energy coming from you. So I want to hear the story. Tell me what you're.
Well, no, I just want to back that up because I mentioned George Gomez. He was another early Valley Midway guy. And one of the things that a lot of us had back then was, since they were giving us the freedom, we kept putting things out there. And like you made the Stan Lee thing, it sounds like the exact same path is you find a way to make it interesting for yourself. And, I'm pretty much a lead follower, get out of the way kind of guy.
Nice.
If no one's in the front, I'll take the lead. If someone's leading, I'm following, I'll do whatever. Right. But my Stan Lee skipped ahead to about 5 years ago when I found out they were doing the movie Rampage. I wrote Stan Lee a letter and said, they might be making one of my games a movie, and I have no experience with this kind of thing. So if they ask me to do a cameo, would you play me?
and so what did he say?
He didn't answer. Thank you.
That would have been awesome.
No, but honestly, we're glad that you played you, which we'll get into in a moment, of course.
Right. But we got to talk.
We have so much to talk about, right? Obviously, and that is a huge thing that's happening today. Now, I want to talk about like the Game Refuge and the company you started. Talk about the genesis of that and how. What did that?
That was 10 years after I started. Basically, I started at Midway.
Okay.
And had a lot of great fun and great successes with great people. And then after 8 years, we were bought out by our biggest competitor. Valley Midway was bought by Williams. And then we stayed at Williams for a couple of years. And then Electronic Arts had been trying to get me to come work for them for a while. And I didn't want to move to California. And finally they said, well, what if we just gave you enough money to start your own company? It's like, okay, we can do that.
I like option B.
You know what? Sure, why not?
So I've been making video games for 36 years, and I've had my own company for 26 years. Oh. And I kept doing games for Midway, but then got to do games for EA. And our first game as our own company was General Chaos, which was considered the first real-time strategy. It's somewhere back there.
Okay, I was looking.
Real-time strategy game. It was EA's #1 independent game that year. Still got a ton of Chaos fans. But more people probably know about Rampage than any game I've ever done. But
you love this theme of chaos and rampage and destruction, it seems. Where's the inspiration behind that?
That's what I really want.
Do you like to, you go home and just throw all your, books on the ground and tear down your table? Is this a...
You're tearing me apart, Lisa!
Yeah.
People, when you talk about the inspiration for Rampage, part of it is, at my age, when I was a kid, I had sandboxes to play in, and army men, and or Lego blocks, and that was about what you build something, you put your army men on it, then what else is there to do except knock it all down? And that's probably in the back of my mind. That's probably where a lot of Rampage came from. But really, Rampage came out of the fact that they told me I couldn't do something. They said, no, this hardware doesn't support background animation, and I wanted to do bigger characters so I could show comedy. Because my art style, I wanted to be able to make bigger characters so I could show comedy in their faces. And I did one game with a lot of big characters, but I said I wanted to do background animation. No, you can't do that with this hardware. It's like, come on, why not? You know, spend a little money here. And they're like, no. All you can do is animate a rectangle. What are you going to do with an animating rectangle? And so I looked at Sharon, one of the other artists, the woman who put the bow on this Pac-Man. And I said, Sharon, a building falling into itself is an animating rectangle. And from there, it was like we knew. The first line of the Rampage game design document is the story of Rampage, or why this is next year's #1 game. Because we knew from the start we had a hit. So we took it to our boss, you know, and of course he said no.
Of course they did. I don't believe in it.
You know, F bosses. That's what I want to say. Cheers to F bosses.
That's why you become your own boss.
Exactly.
Well, we started on it anyway, and we kept going over everybody's head, and eventually we got to a point where actually upper management shifted, and the new guy that came in said, I've got an open door policy.
Yes.
And you can guess who was waiting outside his door at 8:59 the next morning. Right?
This guy.
And he okayed it, and then it went on to break every earnings record of any arcade game up to that point. It kicked butt, man.
Cheers to that.
That's
hell
awesome.
yeah. It kicked butt as you were kicking butt. While playing.
Exactly.
You know what I love about that? You know, first of all, I'm looking at the animation here and the expression that you have in each of these characters. And from the gate, you know, as we introduce you, you're an animator. And that's what you love, right? Is that like the core of what you love?
Actually, animation, I like entertaining people. And animation was one. I was a filmmaker first. I made a lot of films, but once I got to college, it was like, you know, you get somebody who drops out and she was your lead actress. Oh yeah, there's $2,000 shot in the ass.
Yeah. There you go.
But so I fell back on animation because I could always draw. I never considered myself an artist. Because I was a cartoonist. I put myself through college doing ads and, you know, for bars and for free beer and popcorn and that kind of stuff. And but the animated film that I did fell back on, won a lot of awards around the world. So that kind of, and again, I thought I would be an animator. Came out to New York, you know, and I'm showing my film and going all over the place. And you know, it's like, hey, this is brilliant. This is gorgeous. You're going to have no trouble finding a job somewhere else. And then I finally got offered a job as an animator, and I took the animation test as an entry level, and it was the most mind-numbing, horrifying experience of my life.
Oh no!
Copying someone else's art, moving it that much, and it's just like I wanted to weep, man. It's like, and 2 months later, I was offered the job at Valley. So I never took the job here. I came back and thought, you know, that's it. And then, you know, the rest, as they say, is history. So I'm more about entertaining. I mean, my games are as much. My art is obvious in them, but so are the bad puns. So are the ridiculous storylines. So are the, you know, for me, it's self and. When I'm making you laugh too.
No, for sure. I mean, we were playing the game earlier as well, and I played the game multiple times. I loved playing this game.
Thank you.
And one of the best features in this game is when you grab someone and eat them. I thought that's just when that first happened, and it happens organically in the game. Right. So it's just like when that happened, I was like, wait a minute, did I just eat someone? How do I do that again? I'm just gonna keep mashing the buttons until I eat someone again. Boom, ate them again.
Well, and that was one of the mashing the buttons. I mean, there are some hardcore, you know, arcade competitive people that'll say Rampage isn't even a real game.
Oh, no.
Because, you know, it's all about high score and competition. But designing Rampage was making something that anybody could play. You don't have to know what you're doing. You're hitting the buttons and you're going to be entertained. And then when you see that guy did something that kept him from getting hurt when he falls down with the building, he jumps off, or not to punch the electricity when it's on.
Right.
You know, so I did that. And you learn these little bits and pieces, and it sucks you in over more and more time. But you don't have to know it to have fun.
Right. Exactly.
And that was by design.
You learn by trial and error. Right. Which is great, which makes it like for everyone. Everyone of all ages can enjoy this game, can learn from this game, and then that's when you get strategy behind it.
It was the first 3-player game. And so I knew that people were going to be playing with total strangers, and I didn't want the star of the arcade, the king, kicking the ass of the little kid next to him.
Right.
I wanted them both to have fun.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and so we tried to make, Jeff Nauman was a programmer, designer, co-designer of Rampage. Fantastic job of tuning that game so that there was basically no wrong way to play it. You can play it you can fight with each other, you can cooperate, and then you get caught up in the little bits and pieces, and then you get naked and go scurrying off the screen, and then you find out that other players can eat you if you're going off. So then you're digging in for that next quarter as fast as you can. Yeah. And now the operator's happy because he's making more money. Of course, kids are digging for that next quarter so they don't get eaten. Yeah. All the little bits of it. I'm so proud of that stinking game. Yeah, I really am.
I feel the excitement. I feel the energy. I was playing this game.
That's mostly the beer. That's mostly the beer.
Hey, no, you know what? That's the excitement of when you were creating the game. Like, you know what I mean? And now to know that it's a lasting impression in people's minds and people's lives. Like, I can remember playing Rampage as a kid, and then again, right when I got on there, I was like, wow, I haven't played Rampage in so long. And when Tiltz opened up, cheers to Tiltz.
Cheers to Tiltz.
You know, when Tiltz opened up and they had Rampage there, and I was like, wow. I put the coin in, started playing, and everything kept rushing back. You know, and that's what separates Rampage from a lot of these other games that, you know, you're like, oh yeah, I remember playing that. But no, Rampage, you get all the nostalgia, all the chaos, all the fun, you know, of just pure genius just going in there.
I never get tired of hearing that. And it's so, honestly, the last couple of years where the resurgence of arcade games and everything, the fact that people remember, I can't tell you how much that means to me and all of the guys that made these games back in the day. When we hear from players that are now playing with their kids, you know, and going, no, this was a big part of my life. Because I never really knew that. You know, we didn't have social media back then. Our identities were more or less secret. And we didn't get that kind of feedback live unless we were literally standing in the arcade watching, which was a lot of fun. Testing games.
No, he has to do that now. Not back in the day. Back in the day, they're like, who's this guy that has Rex? I don't know.
But hearing about it now means so much. I mean, it really, you know, it gets you. It really gets you. It's wonderful. I can't even begin to describe it.
One of the first things you said, you know, and I'm glad you corrected me about the whole animation, because you're here to entertain. You're into here to make people have fun and like have people.
That's
like
one of the tools in the arsenal.
Exactly.
Right.
And that never dies. Like that, you know, 100 years from now, you know, that should still be played because entertainment, everybody wants it. It's like a core crux of human nature. We all want to be entertained. We all want to have fun. We all want to see expression. We all want to see different worlds that you create. And there's like a different world where like, you're like this big monster that gets to destroy what you used to in the city. We live in New York, a bunch of buildings everywhere. That's the excitement I had. I'm climbing up every building. I'm thinking like skyscraper. And that's just always going to resonate with people. So that's never going to die. That's how I figure it. You know, when you make that type of art.
I am delighted it's lasted this long. I really have. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, man, for sure. So, like, I want to also talk about, like, just the legacy of the game, and then, like, we were talking about before. Now, what's next for you? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, what is next for you and the Rampage brand, and is there another game in the works? Like,
okay, we'll have to ask Time Warner. Okay. I was a Valley Midway employee, so I get nothing from anything that goes on with Rampage.
No way.
No. I'm loving the attention. I mean, the guys who made the movie, John Ricard, the producer, reached out to me. The Rock was incredible. Naomi Harris, everybody. They reached out to me. They were wonderful. They included me in a lot of the production that they didn't have to do. But no, I don't own the rights to it because I was an employee. Okay. You know, I was an employee. Right. So I can't tell you what's going to happen next with it. I mean, I saw the movie. You saw the movie. They carried out that rat. Yeah. I'm hoping, you know, we've got a sequel coming up because it kicked butt.
Yeah.
It kicked butt. I love what they did with the movie.
So I want to talk more about that experience, the whole seeing your creation on the cinema and having a megastar like The Rock be the star of this movie. How was that? Like, I just want to know. Give me, like, walk me through that.
All right, short. I heard they were making a movie.
Yep.
And I was delighted, even though it's like 30 years later. I heard the producer John Rickard is making a Rampage movie and it's going to come out in 2015. And I'm like, oh, that's tremendous. And like every other human being in the world, but it's a movie coming out of a video game, so it's going to suck. But I didn't care.
Cheers to that, man.
I love no filters. We're very no filter that way too. I love it.
And that's what I felt. And then I saw that it wasn't, I was just reading about it in the trades. I wasn't involved. And then I saw The Rock signed on in like late 2014 or early 2015. It's like, this is getting interesting.
Yeah.
He was still, and he still is rising.
The megastar.
And it was just like,
he might be our president in 2020.
I've already let him know I'm available to be vice president.
Right.
But if nominated, I will not run.
They'll be called the Rampage Brothers. The Rampage Brothers. That'll be so awesome.
DJ and the Rampage Brothers.
But basically, I was invited. Once I heard they were in production, I was following the trades, and I got an email that said, we'd like to have you come down and be an extra.
Yeah.
And that was great, and I thought it couldn't get any better than that. And those extras worked really, really hard. And this was like 98 degrees and weeks upon weeks in Chicago, filming some of it. And, dressed in a wool suit, carrying a suitcase. I get called over, and the assistant director says, hey, you're the guy that did Rampage. We were informed. We'd like to shoot a cameo. So I'm doing, we spent a whole afternoon shooting me running away from the Sears Tower, imaginary falling down behind this moving truck, and they had stuntman. Incredible. And then the extras were all great. They're cheering and they're going, man, you're a great actor. You look like you were really scared. It's like, it's 85 degrees. I'm in a wool suit. I'm afraid I was going to have a heart attack. And
the acting was real. Acting was real.
And then I get a call a few weeks later from the producer, the main producer, John Rickard, who said, we'd like to invite you down to meet everybody and onto the studio during the last week of shooting. I got to meet everybody. They were all wonderful and even nicer than you hear they are. So it was, and every time something happens, like it can't get any better than this, And then the next spring, we get invited to the premiere. My wife and I go out, and I'd already heard from a friend that I was in the test screening. They're like, man, we've seen your cameo. Big close up, and then it comes on me. It's like, yes. So my wife and I are sitting there at the premiere, and we're holding hands. It's like, okay, here it comes.
Oh, what happened?
And the first at the after party, the after party, which was a whole nother geek fest for me, But the producer says, the first thing he said was, how'd you like the movie? And I loved it. I really did love it. And they were so great. They went into such detail about the choices they made with the scripts. And they were really tremendous. But then the second thing he said is, I'm really sorry. Warner Brothers made me come in about 3 weeks ago and cut about 20 minutes of Easter eggs out of the movie. So I ended up on the cutting room
But it's on the director's cut.
They didn't do one, but I'm on the DVD.
All right.
That's what I was asking earlier.
I was just at Best Buy today. I should have picked up the DVD. I saw it. I was like, all right, I'm going to get it. I got to watch it now.
So, I can prove I was there at least.
That's awesome.
It was so much fun, and they were great. And I really love what they did with it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what did you think about the translation from the video? Like, did you ever think that game would ever be translated to film? And then what did you think about the result of that translation?
I know that it would. I was worried because I saw some early press saying it was going to be a big monster movie.
Yeah.
And anybody that knows the first Rampage and Rampage World Tour knows that the monsters are the victims. They're humans turned into monsters, and they're the good guy, really. Yeah. They're just trying to stay alive. And once I actually met with the producers, John Ricard in particular, who took me through the scripting, I realized that they had purposely kept the humanity through George, the character George. And that actor, Jason Lyles, deserves his own Academy Award category. I've said this before. Meeting him and watching him and Dwayne on, in what they were doing, the day I was watching, he's in a crane 40 feet high and they're acting and he's signing with each other. And once you meet Jason, you realize he is George. Even though, kudos to the wonderful CGI people. Yeah. That the humanity really comes through that performance. It's tremendous. Yeah. But that was important to me. And then Rock being The Rock, you knew the comedy was going to be there. Of course. And I love what they did with it.
That's
amazing. I knew it wasn't going to be my game. Right. And they made it into a great movie.
Right. Because, the game itself is just complete chaos.
And it's silly. And it's
all over this. Right. So they needed to, as a movie, you need to fill in with plot lines.
My game had you happy for 3.5 minutes.
Right.
They had an hour and a half.
Right,
2 hours.
Exactly. And The Rock is an amazing actor, so he made it really believable, really true to life. And it was fantastic.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's we were getting director's cuts. All right, cool. I don't know what that means.
Wait, what are we doing?
I have no idea. He started doing sign language.
I'm doing the
technical. I thought it was George doing sign language. Yeah.
You know. Dancing or something. Now I'll tell them to lower the volume of the music. That's how
right. I feel like they keep lowering it and then bringing it back up again.
You know what it is? It's because of the reggae. You know what I mean? Because then it sneaks up on you.
I think it's the Tiltz. They're all like, wait a minute, the music is lower? No. I gotta keep pumping out food.
Now we're fine with the sound. But anyways, so one of the things I was thinking of when you mentioned that is, again, the expression that you have in here with these characters and the humanity. And that's why I wonder how you like the translation to a movie. And it sounds like they got that kind of humanity in there.
They did, and I was really happy when I heard
and
that.
It reminds me of the creation, to bring it back to Stan Lee, when he created the Hulk, he wanted the same type of humanity in that character.
Right.
And when I look at these characters, all these different monsters all have humanity and expressive, human type of, emotions.
Yeah.
And so now, you see a movie, like you said, movies, video games to movies suck. But if they're able to get that core of it, then you can't,
Right. It's just wow.
Then you get it. You know what I mean, right?
They get it.
Well, and I was told that both The Rock and John, the main producer, was were huge Rampage fans as kids.
Yeah.
So that made me feel better too, because they know they're going to get it.
The essence is there as a fan.
Yeah. Did you get to play Rampage with The Rock, or?
I didn't know. They didn't have one on set. They didn't have one on set, but I got to meet him. He was great. I got to geek out.
Right. I think you should hit up The Rock and be like, "Come to Tiltz, play me in Rampage right now."
Why not?
I'm sure he's watching.
Rock.
I hope he's
Dwayne
watching.
Johnson, come through to Tiltz. If you're in Brooklyn or in New York, he can probably get a chopper now. He can probably get a chopper right now.
He can probably. He has a watch that he can just teleport now. I'm pretty sure.
He just grabs a random rope.
Come in like Mary Poppins, bitch. Boom. Come in there, be like, I'm ready. Slam some cords.
That's got to be the first time anybody's compared The Rock to Mary Poppins.
Well, you heard it here first on the second round.
The name is
Rock. Please don't hit me, please.
No, his name is.
Actually, give me the rock bottom. I would take it like a champ.
No, you do the backflip like The Rock.
I have to.
His name will be Mary Rockins. That will be his name, the Mary Rockins.
I think you're digging yourself into a bigger hole.
I am. I'm sorry. Anyways.
So as we're closing, I want to know what is next for you, Brian. What is next? What is gonna happen after this whole Rampage legacy? I know you're here right now. I know you're gonna keep drinking with us and get kind of a little buzzed, but I want to know what's next.
So do I. Basically, I've been very lucky. I've been blessed. My games, I basically make games. People come up, they tap me on the shoulder and say, we've got this project. And if it looks like something that I can make better by being part of it, that's what I do. I've been lucky enough to be doing this for a long time. Right now, I got nothing going on.
Okay.
I had a big 18-month project that we were working on all summer get canceled by the parent company in Japan a month before it was supposed to start in September.
You bastards!
So right now I'm free.
Yeah.
So if you've got a game development project that you're looking for a really experienced team of designer developers, get in
I have
touch.
a game pitch
Get
for
in
you
touch.
right now. Right?
What's your budget?
It's called that. We'll talk about budget off camera, all right?
Yeah, okay, when you go back.
But I feel like it's a second round game and it has to do with all drinking, right? There's 3 players and we just keep hammering back beers, and then throw up, keep going, beers. Complete chaos, just like Rampage, and the last one standing is the winner. What do you think?
I've done a beer pong game.
Ooh.
I've actually done a couple of beer games.
Yeah.
They've never involved vomit.
Okay.
So, and I mean, I
Vomit
think
puts it over the edge a little.
if we're doing vomit, I think it's got to be projectile, and there's got to be targets involved.
And, it needs to
And the
shoot on
targets have
screen.
got to be the other patrons standing around. But if we were projectile vomiting and we hit you, point value, what would you say?
Right. Or you can aim it
That's
at
what
your
I'm saying. That's
competitors,
what I'm saying.
and then it takes away if it's like a crucial hit, they're out. That's
Okay.
it. You have to put another quarter in,
Sounds
and
good.
then go in again.
I tell you, I'm your guy. We'll talk budget right after the camera
My man,
stops rolling.
my man.
So before we get to the close, and I do actually have a question that's been burning in me for a while. You are a designer of many games, over 60, over 80 games.
Yeah.
That you've been a part of in some fashion. What other games really excited you? Like, I know we're talking about Rampage today. But what are some other games that like really hit home for you?
It all depends on what we're talking about. My Rampage, I'm the proudest because we really had to fight to get it done, and it broke all kinds of records.
Yeah.
General Chaos was unlike anything anybody'd ever seen, and it was on a very limited Sega Genesis system. So
I love
there's a
Sega
huge fan base out there that is still waiting for the sequel. Pigskin, we did our Tribals, which set the tone for NBA Jam and everything that came after. Jeff Nauman came up with that, and I added the punching and fouling and the everything else.
Nice.
But and then Pigskin, the follow-up to that was like football, rugby, where you could decapitate people, and there was
Kind
a
of
lot
like
of
Blitz.
fun.
You can punch people in.
Oh,
the face.
no, much better than Blitz. Much better.
I agree.
Yes, no. It really depends on what we're talking about. I've got favorite games that are like the head games that'd be Pigskin. I've got favorite games that are land-based PC games. That was a full contact poker game called Arctic Stud Poker Run that we did. That was gambling, guns, gasoline. It was really, honestly, full contact poker on rocket snowmobiles in a Cthulhu Myth House Arctic Eternal Winter.
That's fantastic.
It was insane and a shitload of fun to play. But I've worked on so many games. It's so much about working on games and having fun making them. Sometimes it's just people see what you do and they see what you play and they think it's all about the gameplay. But being a designer is about solving all kinds of problems. One of my favorite things is, making arcade games. Player wants to live forever.
Yeah.
The guy buying the game wants them off in 30 seconds and get the next quarter. And you got to make them both happy. One of my favorite things we came up with when we were doing our Tribals, it's a time-based game.
Yeah.
So much for a quarter, so much for a token.
Right.
Clock runs out. Do we stop the game?
No way.
You keep playing, even though, and you don't notice 0 on the clock.
Yeah.
You keep playing, and then my partner Jeff came up with this. Brilliant. And the ball, you shoot, ball gets right up to the basket, and that's when we stop the game. No, you are digging. You are digging for that quarter to find out whether or not that ball went in.
This is
Those little things just make it for me.
Fantastic.
If you ever update that game, you gotta add in Dikembe Mutombo. You ever seen the commercial? No. Like, have him just come
Or
in.
the little Mortal Kombat did. So Stevie.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So right now, what is your favorite game to play?
I don't have one.
You don't have one.
It's
Still
I have a better
Rampage.
question. So now you've made so many games.
Yeah.
What is one game Perfect. All right, so you made a lot of games. What is one game you wish you made that you haven't? And that'll be the closing question. What is one game you haven't made? You're like, if I can make this today.
That's easy. I started General Chaos 2, which was a Sega Genesis D-pad.
Yeah.
Did that 26 years ago. Wow. It was a big hit. We started Chaos 2 5 years ago, and we had to call it off. I had cancer at that time. It's about 40% done, but we're doing it. Back in the old, you had to move a cursor around. We've got it set up so it's just you. Move down here, do whatever. I want to finish that game. That is the one game I haven't done yet that I've got to finish.
Yes.
I've got to finish that game.
Well, if you finish it, and once it's finished, you come back on our show, you premiere it, we'll play it, and it'll be fantastic.
Once it's done, everybody will play it.
That's great. I got one more question for you, and I'm hoping it's a yes. Will you play with us at Tiltz, the Rampage game?
I'd be honored.
Oh, yes.
I'd be honored.
Oh, yes.
It is happening. It is happening.
If you'll buy me a beer.
Of course. I'll buy you beer for the rest of the night, my man.
Good and good. Wait. No, second round's on us. Bang. Second round.
It's just a little bit of promotion. So here at the second round, what we do when we're all in agreement, and I feel like we're all in agreement, of course, on Rampage and on you, Mr. Brian, we give it a second round all around. So when we get all our glasses up here, and I want to say that Rampage and
Brian Colin
and Tiltz gets a second round.
All around.
I love it. Thank you. This has been a ride.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you had fun. I want to say thank you for being on our show. It's been a pleasure talking to you. We could talk all night about games, about video, about Rampage, about you, and all the rich history of it. But unfortunately, we have to go. We're gonna drink some more. We're gonna play some Rampage. So, my second rounders, thank you for tuning in. And of course, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and
she's giving you the wrong. Come on, get on with it.
We're getting come on, man. Stop with the plugs. Thank you to Tiltz for having us. Thank you for Middle Light, Coors Light, and Mr. Malabe signing out.
Mr. Lex on deck signing out as well. And I had a great time, Mr. Rampage, Mr. Game, connoisseur,
Game Master.
Like, I'm having a great time. Anyways, shout out to Tiltz, shout out to everybody. Second rounders, we love you. Signing out, baby. Signing out.
Brian, please sign out for everyone, please. Please tell them.
Your plug.
Of course, we don't know who you are, but say goodbye.
Goodbye. Follow Brian Colin on Facebook and all that good stuff and whatever.
That was the greatest.
That's a social media thing, right?
Yeah. Pretty
Game
much.
Refuge. Follow it, baby.
Yep.
We are out.
We are out. Cheers.
A beer. We are out of beer.
We're out of beer.
That
means we're out of time. So, cheers, and let's get a second round.
That works for me.